It's
I have to put
my.
down my extensive notes that I've made all morning because listening to Catalina, you make a lot of notes. Catalina, you're out there somewhere. You might be 28, but you've got more wisdom than a lot of people double your age. So, at least about this business and about life. You might be noticing a trend today, and if you're not, you probably should. Maybe you're hungover or something. But it's about leadership, right? That he told me a lot about. And really, that's what Catalina was showing by the way she looks at life and builds business. She was, in her mind, acted, worked like a team elite when she was a brand new in business. And you stop and you think, people hope they're going to have success. But then they're focused, you ask them what do they want? And they're really not sure. They're really not sure, oh well, I think I might get to brand rep this month. Hey, I get that it's nerve-wracking and all that, and it's hard. But if that's what your thinking is, you need to lift your thinking. Okay? You really need to lift where you want to go. Because if that's your only aim, when you get there, you're probably going to get disappointed. Because you're not going to be getting any of those wild and wonderful stuff. And I'm looking at a person here who understands this business in a way that most people really won't.
Yung $1 million circle, yeah? 20?
When they talk about leadership, they talk about a lot of numbers.
Ay, 20 nga. 20?
Unfortunately, a lot of people think that means telling people what they want to hear. And so they get a new person, they say, oh, I recruited Cam, and Cam says, well, I don't like the way the company groceries. You're right, Cam, we'll get it all changed just for you, mate, and it'll be great. So Cam's in the business today, and you've got some person who's been in business 10 years, and they go, oh yeah, I'll take that. Here, the rest. I mean, really? That's not leadership. That's acting like our government. Really and truly. Leadership sometimes means you're going to tell people what they don't want to hear. In a way, you're not telling them to insult them, you're not telling them anything else. I'm looking at a wonderful team lead here, Karen Millers. Circle of Excellence, all the great stuff. There's a great story about Karen. Karen, if she wasn't the world's best galvanic spa saleswoman, she was certainly the Pacific's best over and over. How many's the most galvanic spas you personally sold in a day? 8 in a day. I don't know if I've sold 8 yet. I've got a fact. Karen was selling leads and corporates getting her up on the stage and telling her how good she was. And she'd go back to her upline elephant and she'd cry. I'm not making any money. And then tell them how wonderful. Yes, I keep doing more of that. And she'd come to me. And I'd go, well, you keep selling stuff, you'll never make much money. And I'd walk off. Now that sounds really brutal and nasty, right? And she'd go back, oh, you're going to do me to me. And Alison had come to me, Graham, Karen, she's upset, she's crying. What did you say to her? Right? Karen, did I tell you the truth? What happened to your income when you actually listened to that? And then about 3 years later, she was the millionaire circle of excellence. Now, not any brilliance on my part. The compensation plan's always been what the compensation plan is. And the money in the compensation plan is really, everyone wants to look at all the things, and I'll cover a couple of slides about things. But in some ways, it's really, really simple. Let's look at it. New Skin pays out around of its sales back to us as commissions. That hasn't really changed over the years. It might go up 1 or 2% or down 1 or 2%, but it's about. Now let's break down the compensation compensation plan. And everyone goes, oh, look up front, they're going to be 24% on this. Yeah. The back end, let's start at the back and come backwards. It pays 6 levels at 5%. Now, who can add up how much 6 times 5 is?
25.
30.
30.
Okay, they've only got 10% left to pay out. And 90% of you are excited about the 10%, you're not bloody excited about the 30% at the other end. That's 80% of the money they're paying out, and the 6 levels of 5%. Just let that sink in for a little bit. That's how Kirsty lives the non-digital nomad life over there in New Zealand, you know? And that's how people do a circle of excellence, and that's how they've done it. Because if they're paying 80% of the commissions they're paying out is in the 5% down 6 levels, I really should just shut up. Because I just told you everything you need to know. You should be able to deduct from that where your efforts would be. And I was talking to a couple of guys before, Sterling and someone else, you're out there, I know I was talking, and Andy, and people just don't grasp how that works. They go, oh, but 6 levels of people. It's not 6 levels of people. Okay? Let's say I sponsor Cam. It's not me sponsoring Cam and 6 people down to, say, Donna. It's not that. Let's assume each of these rows is one group, one organisation. It's 6 levels of organisations. There might be 20 people, there might be 200 people, there might be 1,000 people in each organisation. It's 6 levels of those. Don't get into that thinking that it's 6 levels of individuals. If it was 6 levels of individuals, they wouldn't be paying 80% of that $22 billion. 22 billion US dollars, 30 billion Australian dollars, they've paid out. 80% of that has been on the 6% down, or 5% down 6 levels. Yeah, make it 6%, John will be much happier. But 80% of that 30 billion Australian dollars, let it sink in where they're paying the money. And then go back and worry about how much you're going to make selling a Lumi stock. As Catalina very quickly found out. Now, I've got to show you a couple of slides because I want to talk about compensation plans a little bit. Oh, look at that. Now, network marketing companies, certainly not music, love to give you this complicated stuff. And you show this to your brand new person who you've just talked to about the business. And you go, isn't this wonderful? You should do this. And they go,
Hindi pala natin mapicture.
ah,
Kailangan may
let me think about it. What are they going to think about? Well, you need to think about that an awful long time because I've been doing this 30 years and I don't understand it. Maybe I'm a bit slow, but they keep paying me because within the first week, that's where the money is, right there. That's 6%. It's not on individuals, it's on levels of organisations. That's why 80% of the funds go out there. Of course, people need to make a bit of money when they start. Of course, Karen needs to make a bit of money selling those galvanics. Otherwise, she wouldn't have stayed in the business long enough. We've got to have that. But really, that's just a placeholder for anyone looking to build a big business. You like Catalina to see to the future. But if you've got such a small goal, what are you going to get? I mean, there's that old saying, what is it? Shoot for the stars, you hit the moon. Well, Catalina thought of herself as a team elite day one. What if she'd only got to diamond? Wow. What if she just thought, I'll be a brand or I'll be a gold? She would have struggled, like many people do, to stay brand rate. Because then you focus, I've got to get 3,000. I've got to get 3,000 points. It's the 30th month, I've only got 2,800 points. What am I going to do? And then they get a check for $433. And they go, what the hell? They let me park in the middle of Sydney for 2 days. So why? They're not going to continue to do that forever because the return versus the effort simply won't be worth it to them. There's got to be a promise of something bigger, and there is. Nu Skin's got what? Nearly 2,000 people who've earned over $1 million US each job. And that's more than any other network marketing company. No other network marketing company in the world has paid out $22 billion in commissions US dollars. And you stop and you look at all this. Yes, you've got to have that because obviously someone comes in, you tell them you won't make a cent for a year, they're not going to likely stay, even if their vision is pretty good. They just won't stay. So you've got to give them something, but the money's there. But this looks like more money. Look, 25%. That's far more than 5%. How come 80% of the money that paid out of that 30 billion Australian dollars over the last 35 years or 40 years is in their debt? And I just really, my whole point is to get you thinking about that. Now, we've just seen some enhancements to the comp plan. Well needed. Thing about compensation plans is they have to be balanced. And John sort of hit on that before when he showed the scales. Compensation plans, they need to work together. Each piece has got to work together. Is anyone in here like classical music? A few of us? Not that I'm that big a fan, but when it's good, it's really good. He's a professional musician. He knows. If you've got a really great orchestra, it's magic. It really is magic when you sit in there because it's not the sound of a bunch of individuals. It's one sound. And take it out of that and into more commercial type music. It's the same. You've seen that over the years they bring out a super band and it's got like 5 hugely known people and they get together. They're never that good because they actually know a team. An orchestra that works together. Well, a compensation plan is very much like an orchestra. And if each piece of it doesn't fit together, you won't have anyone getting up, or many people getting to that 5% on 6 levels. That may be where the money is, but if you did, say the company asked me and I said, easy, John, pay them nothing until they get there. And we'll only keep the people with big dreams. Wouldn't work, right? This would be out of balance. But it's also out of balance to tell people that if they sit there selling Loomies or whatever, they're going to gain financial independence, they're going to get multi-generational income. Because that's not going to happen either, so there's that balance. I believe what Nu Skin's just done with these enhancements is put us back into a balance we haven't seen for probably 8 or 9 years. The balance is really critical, and as that comes together like a fine orchestra, or a fine meal, when you cook a fine meal with, say, 7 or 8 ingredients, you don't actually think, oh, there's this ingredient, there's that. You think, it's the whole experience. Compensation plans have got to be like that. I mean, yes, that's the mechanics of it, but what you need to feel is something that flows almost organically. And this will flow. And they put some things in there to enhance that, such as this leadership advancement bonus. And that's to get you focused on, hey, look over here at leadership. That's why it's there. I love this. These are fantastic because it gives that person starting out something clear and almost immediate that they can start earning from. I know there's at least 5 or 6 people in the room who could earn $20,000 or $15,000 out of this in the next 6 months. Yeah, what if you're a diamond? Melania, where are you? You introduced me. She's out there somewhere. There she is. 10 grand waiting for you, right? 6 weeks' time, she had 10 grand in pocket. That's pretty amazing. That's what that's great for. It starts taking them from the selling the loonies or whatever into thinking bigger. And that's where that leadership enhancement bonus, it's like putting that extra little piece, the resistance in the meal that you're cooking. Now, sounds more though if you're in New Caledonia. Got to say that. Now, I'm going to announce another enhancement they got planned. And they actually let me announce it, which is sort of dangerous on their part. But if you get to be, you or anyone on your team, you can grab that, let's go July 1st, $3,000 a month gold plus. Look what you're going to get extra on your G1 personally sponsored. Now, it is great. And you say, but it shrinks. Wow, why are they doing that? Because they know when you enhance the comp plan, it changes the way people get paid a little bit. So some people in their activity, they're going to go, oh, well, it changed and I lost $12 here or $100 here or whatever. Well, that just said to you, here it's back. Because what we're going to do is encourage you to move towards this leadership creation more. And we're going to do that by making sure we give you that little bit extra incentive so that you're not feeling that you lost anything. Because every time you change, some people go, wow, I got this for doing nothing. Other people go, right? Always. It just, there's a finite amount of money. 40%, all they do is move it around. Every network marketing company does it. You've got a set amount you can pay out without bankrupting your company. You know, they've got a, if you look at it, 100%, 20% say to run the company, 40% pay you, and 40% to build the products. It really just, there's only so much money that you can move around, and that's why that 40's been there. So what they're doing here is they're saying to you, don't worry, we've got your back. And that's a pretty good thing, because I know some people feel like, oh, they changed things. They're changing it for a reason, and there's a reason that old-timers like me are excited by the change, because we understand how critical it is, and there's a reason there's some people in this room that I haven't seen at events for a while, because they understand this change is shifting us back to a position where we can really grow. But then they've also turned around and added that leadership advancement bonus and added this, so the orchestra is going to flow from day one. And you're going to get the Philharmonic experience, not the, Bankstown Council choir experience, perhaps. The thing about this business to understand is when you start out, and I was told this the first week I joined by a guy who at that point had 1/3 of the Houston numbers in his team, 1/3 of the whole company. He said, Graham, understand this. You look at a graph. He said, in the early stages, you are going to be grossly underpaid for your efforts. You make $1 an hour, you're probably doing well. And I seem to remember Alice McMillan bitching about that very fact about 6 or 12 months ago. I seem to be doing a lot of background. And Karen Miller's, well, she just never let me rest. Why aren't I making more? Because you'll be underpaid at first for all your efforts. There's people who run around the world, sleep really bad themselves, couldn't afford any better, and are doing all this stuff. As I was in some of the same places doing the same thing, watching cockroaches bigger than a cat walk across the